I was halfway through my second cup of espresso when my phone buzzed on the Formica countertop. The bitter tang of metal on my tongue made me pause mid-sip. Outside our 10th-floor Chicago apartment, the L rumbled in the distance, its echoes threading through the low hum of rush-hour traffic. I swiped open the notification, an unknown number, and my chest lurched. The message read, simply, "You need to see this." Beneath it, a photo thumbnail glowed. My pulse ratcheted tight as I tapped to enlarge. There she was, my wife, at a dimly lit Logan Square coffee shop, seated across from a man I didn't recognize. Their knees pressed together beneath a small round table, her laptop sat open but ignored. In front of them, a silver sugar jar ashtray held a single, half-smoked cigarette. Emily's hand rested on the man's, fingertips brushing his. The warm café light caught the curve of her smile, one I'd thought meant only me. I set my mug down so hard it rattled the saucer. She said she'd be home grading our daughter's project. My mind raced as I stared at the image, the world narrowing to that booth and those secret meetings. I drew in a shaky breath, tasting copper behind my teeth, and forced my shoulders to relax. Not here. Not now. Observe. I closed my eyes, inhaling deep. The city's murmur grew distant, as though I stood underwater. When I opened them, I rotated the photo on screen, noting every detail, his trimmed beard, the cuff of his dress shirt, her silk blouse catching the light, the curve of her wrist. I saw the cafe's exposed brick behind them, the faint scrawl of chalkboard specials, the steam rising from 2 untouched cappuccinos. A fresh wave of shock crashed through me, but beneath it, a colder clarity took hold. I glanced at the wedding photo on the counter, our young faces bright beneath an arch of orchids, promise radiating from her eyes. Gently, I turned the frame face down, hiding our smiles. The click of its stand seemed deafening in the sudden hush. Setting my phone aside, I reached instead for our shared laptop. I opened a blank note and typed a single line, June 22, 9:18 p.m., Logan Square Café. Underneath, bullet points, knees touching, ashtray cigarette, shared laptop. Each fact steadied me, anchoring shock in proof. My coffee sat forgotten, its warmth fading into bitter memory. The espresso machine's hiss had stilled, the city's pulse resumed, indifferent. I exhaled, tasting not despair, but resolve. Catalog. Preserve. Respond with calm. I retrieved the wedding photo from its hiding spot and placed it back upright, our smiles concealed no longer. It felt heavier now, a testament to vows tested. With measured steps, I left the kitchen, leaving my coffee behind. The corridor's carpeting muted my footfalls as I carried the phone and notes up the stairs to my study. Outside, the L rattled by, and car horns flared on Michigan Avenue. In the quiet of my office, I opened a new folder on my desktop, Evidence, and moved the photo inside. Then I sat at the desk, hands steady, and drafted a title at the top of my next note, Evidence Log, Chicago Betrayal. The metallic tang was gone from my mouth, replaced by the sharp clarity of purpose. The first step had been taken. I would meet this betrayal not with chaos or tears, but with the slow, deliberate gathering of truth. And with that truth, I would rebuild. That night, I lay awake beneath the thin glow of the street lamp filtering through our blinds, the echo of that coffee shop photo still ringing in my mind. I pulled the wedding portrait from the nightstand, her head resting on my shoulder, our daughter bundled between us, and traced the curve of her smile. In that moment, I remembered everything that had once felt unbreakable. Our life had begun so vividly. I recall our first date at Lou Malnati's on North Wells Street, the sweet tang of tomato sauce, the hearty crack of a deep dish slice, and her laughter when I attempted to swirl garlic butter on my crust. We had leaned close over that table, sharing a single pizza, and I dared to dream that every meal could taste that good. At home, we built routines that felt as sturdy as Chicago's brownstones. Saturday mornings meant blueberry pancakes, the batter laced with vanilla and lemon zest, while I brewed dark roast that cleared sleep from our heads. Our daughter, still in her pajamas, would toddle in, demanding a turn at the spatula, syrup dripping everywhere. Emily's humming of old jazz standards became the soundtrack to those sunlit mornings. In spring, we tore out the old kitchen tile together. I measured and sawed, she mixed grout and smoothed seams. We worked until the sun dipped low, then collapsed on the front steps with lemonade pitchers, admiring our handiwork. Each plank and tile felt like a shared chapter, another reason to believe in forever. Evenings after bedtime were our sanctuary. I'd pour us chamomile tea or a glass of red, and she'd open her laptop to tweak marketing slides for the next day's pitch. I'd lean in, offering quiet suggestions, and she'd rest her head on my shoulder. That gentle weight anchored me. Together, we planned our daughter's school projects and dreamed of future vacations. Those nights felt like the heart of our marriage. Then the first tremor of doubt arrived in the form of a late-night chime. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A work notification, she'd say, just a last-minute edit. I believed her because her eyes, though tired, never lied. I rolled over and drifted back to sleep. Next came the bank statement, a $13.20 charge at Bean and Leaf Cafe on a Tuesday evening. When I asked, she smiled apologetically, explaining that a brainstorming session ran late and she needed caffeine. She'd promised never to bring work home, now I accepted this little slip. On a Wednesday, I noticed her coat smelled faintly of a smoky cologne, not her usual floral scent. I inhaled the collar as she hugged me goodbye. She caught me mid-breath and brushed it off. Must be someone at the office wore something new. I laughed, shrugging off the suspicion that pricked at me. At our daughter's school art fair, I spotted her colleague Mark across the room, tall, easy grin, that same smoky cologne wafting around him. They exchanged a quick hug, heads bending together. Later, Emily told me Mark had offered to help carry paint supplies. My smile concealed the knot that tightened in my gut. One night, I followed a half-heard snippet of conversation through the study door. Muffled laughter, the tap of Emily's keyboard, then Mark's voice lower, more intimate than any work discussion. I pressed my ear to the jam. I caught only fragments, can't wait, and, just between us. I freed my ear and stepped away, guilt choking me for eavesdropping yet burning with the need to know. That weekend, I began keeping a small notebook at the kitchen counter. Under yesterday's date, I wrote, 10 p.m. Emily's phone buzz, anon, loved your deck design. Beneath it, I jotted, coffee charge at 9:18 p.m., $12.50. After each note, I drew a small circle to remind myself this was real, not paranoia. Curiosity led me to our shared tablet. I tapped the messaging app and found a hidden folder labeled Logs. Inside were private chats between Emily and a user named @SkyBlue. Great tweak on the headline, read one message. Wish I could show you in person. Scrolling down, I found photos, Emily's laptop screen open, the same slide deck I'd helped her practice, and a blurred figure beside her. My hands trembled, but I scrolled further. Next time, let's meet where no one will find us, she'd typed. I took screenshots, then closed the folder and cleared the cache. My mind steadied at the sight of the notebook laid out with every piece of evidence. I pulled the wedding portrait from its usual spot and placed it face down on the counter, our smiles hidden from view, symbols of trust one could no longer unsee. One final clue sealed my resolve, a lone sugar packet from that cafe, slipped into the pocket of Emily's blazer. I held its thin paper between thumb and forefinger, the cafe's logo faint but readable. I tucked it into my notebook under evidence, a tangible reminder that the flirtation had crossed into real life. As dawn crept into the kitchen, I closed the notebook and inhaled the first cold breath of morning. This changes everything, I thought. The routines we cherished had revealed their fractures. Now, I would respond with clarity and calm, gathering every detail to reclaim my life and secure justice. The first step, cataloging betrayal, was complete, and the next would be deliberate and unflinching. When dawn's gray light filtered through the blinds, I rose with purpose. The notebook on my kitchen counter, pages filled with dates, charges, and chat excerpts, felt less like a confession and more like a blueprint. I poured strong black coffee and carried it to my study, where the half-finished music box lay beside the silver wedding photo I'd turned face down. The two objects, once symbols of our unity, now watched over my plan to secure truth and rebuild my life. 1. Retaining legal counsel. By 10 a.m., I was seated in the waiting room of Hammer & Lou Family Law. My portfolio, thick with printed cafe photos, bank statements, rideshare logs, screenshots from Emily's hidden chat folder, and that lone sugar packet, felt reassuring in my hands. Attorney Mei Lu greeted me with a firm nod and guided me into her office. I placed each exhibit carefully on her desk. The cafe photo with the ashtray and laptop, the Uber receipts showing routes at 9:18 p.m. and 11:05 p.m., the gourmet delights, drink receipts, and the private message screenshots between Emily and at Sky Blue. Finally, the coffee shop sugar packet, evidence A, lay in its small Ziploc bag. May flipped through them methodically. "You've accumulated a thorough record," she said, voice low and steady. "Underprivilege, Martha Hammer, and I will protect this evidence. First steps, sign a retainer, then draft petitions for temporary custody and asset preservation. We'll need to file within 10 days to request expedited orders." As I signed the engagement letter, I felt a weight lift. May outlined the timeline. Within 2 days, finalize temporary custody petition and support request. Within 5 days, file motions to freeze joint accounts and secure home equity valuation. Within 10 days, serve Emily and schedule a hearing. Each milestone carved clarity from chaos. 2. Assembling my support network. That afternoon, I called my brother, David, a software architect with an unerring knack for electronics. Over fast food burgers in his basement workshop, I spread out floor plans and camera specifications. "We need 2 discrete cameras," I said, pointing to the hallway outside our study and the door to the living room. "Time-stamped, motion-activated, with night vision." David grinned at the project. "I'll wire them through the attic to your router. You'll have live feeds on your phone." Later that evening, I met my longtime friend Dr. Elena Torres, psychologist and expert in human behavior, at a quiet café near the lake. We spoke in hushed tones over tea about the micro-expressions I'd noticed, Emily's fleeting flinch when Mark's name came up, her quick smile masking tension. Elena advised on admissible audio capture, record in common areas where no privacy expectation exists. A concealed recorder in the living room bookshelf could capture crucial admissions, she suggested. Between David's technical skills and Elena's behavioral insight, I felt fortified by allies who understood both the practical and personal stakes. 3. Preserving and cataloging evidence. Saturday morning, David arrived with 2 miniature, Wi-Fi-enabled cameras. He mounted one above our study door and another atop the living room bookshelf. We tested each feed on his tablet, crisp, black and white images with clear date-time overlays. For audio, I placed a small recorder inside a decorative box in the living room, its microphone flush with the rim, capturing every footstep and whispered conversation. Back in my study, I sorted digital files. I backed up every screenshot, bank PDF, and photo to an encrypted external drive, then copied the entire folder to 2 USB keys. I labeled them Q1 and Q2, hid checksums in a separate text file, and locked the drives in a safe bolted beneath my desk. I placed the sugar packet and paper receipts in labeled envelopes inside the same safe. At my desk, I organized a master spreadsheet with columns for date collected, description, type, photo, text log, financial, and storage location. Each entry was timestamped to the minute. The dashboard of evidence stood ready. 4. Drafting and notarizing proposals. Monday morning, I met with our neighbor Jenna, part-time notary, at her Sunlit home office. In my briefcase were 2 documents drafted by May, the custody and visitation proposal and the asset division spreadsheet. The custody document outlined joint legal custody, ensuring shared decision-making on education and health. Primary physical custody with me, with Emily granted structured visitation every other weekend and 2 weeks each summer. Temporary support, child and spousal support per Illinois guidelines, pending final decree. The asset spreadsheet itemized home equity, recommending its freeze pending settlement, with options for buyout. Retirement accounts, each retained separate 401k funds. Savings and investments, joint accounts frozen. Personal property, my workshop tools and the music box project assigned to me, her jewelry and art collection to her. Jenna stamped and signed each page, sealing them in legally recognized envelopes. Each seal felt like armor fashioned from ink and embossed paper. 5. Financial planning and valuation. That afternoon, I met financial advisor Simone Clark at her high-rise office. I handed her the asset spreadsheet and bank statements. Simone ran valuation scenarios. Home equity, projected market value, balancing buyout options. Retirement, balances as of filing date held separate. Liquid assets, freeze and monthly review, with carve-outs for childcare. She produced a concise report, tax implications, future cash flows, and language suggestions for the settlement draft, and emailed it directly to May. The numbers made the abstract real. I was protecting my daughter's future and my own stability. 6. Preparing for the hearing. By Wednesday, my study resembled command central, spreadsheets taped to the wall, camera feeds playing in a corner, and the half-assembled music box glowing under a single lamp. I rehearsed my opening statement aloud. On June 22 at 9:18 p.m., Exhibit A, a photograph from an unknown number, shows Ms. Allen with a stranger at a Logan Square café, contrary to her representation that she was home. My voice grew steadier with each pass. The tremor of betrayal subsided, replaced by the authority of prepared fact. That evening, May emailed the hearing date, July 1 at 10 a.m., and confirmed exhibit submissions by June 24. I updated my master list, verified all seals and backups, and crossed off each preparatory task. By channeling shock into structure, consulting counsel, enlisting David and Elena, preserving every scrap of proof, notarizing my proposals, planning finances, and rehearsing testimony, I built a fortress of methodical resolve. The silver wedding photo and music box, once emblems of love, now watched over the transformation of betrayal into a precise, unyielding quest for justice. As Chicago's night lights twinkled beyond my window, I closed my notebook with one final entry: prepared for hearing, evidence secure, network in place, resolve unshaken. I arrived at Whitman and Reeves' conference room exactly at 10 a.m., carrying two objects that had come to define my purpose: our silver wedding photo in its brushed steel frame and the small sugar jar ashtray from that Logan Square café. The morning sun slanted through the Venetian blinds, casting thin stripes across the polished mahogany table. My wife entered with her attorney at her side, shoulders tight and eyes avoiding mine, as I placed the photo to my left and the ashtray to my right, bookends to the truth I was about to lay bare. Attorney Lou spoke first. "We'll review exhibits A through D, then discuss resolution terms." Her tone was crisp, businesslike, betraying no judgment, just the steady machinery of the law. She clicked the remote, and the screen flickered to the first exhibit. Exhibit A, the color photograph from June 22 at 9:18 p.m., Emily and a stranger pressed close in a dim cafe booth, the laptop screen glowing between them, a half-smoked cigarette resting in that very ashtray. Emily went pale, her lips parting as though to apologize, but no sound escaped. Lou advanced to Exhibit B, Uber logs showing two late evening rides, 9:45 p.m. and 11:07 p.m., each tagged to our joint account. I slid the printed receipts across the table. "These confirm your movements after our daughter's bedtime," I said softly, meeting Emily's eyes. "You represented you were home grading projects." Her attorney picked up the sheet, flipping through the lines. Emily's gaze flicked down to our wedding photo. I reached forward and lifted it. "This," I said, placing it in front of her, "shows the promise we made, before these secret meetings." The frame's silver surface caught the light, and for a moment, we were both looking at younger faces, eyes bright with faith. I set the photo on her side of the table. Lou clicked to Exhibit C, bank statements with multiple, Café Aurora, charges for evening coffees that matched the Uber times. I tapped the glass ashtray. "You told me this jar was just decor," I said. "In reality, it held your clandestine cigarette breaks." Lou moved on to Exhibit D, the private message logs from Emily's hidden chat thread, flirtatious texts like, "Can't wait to see you again," and, "You make late nights bearable." Each line scrolled past, luminous against the subdued backdrop of the room. Emily's shoulders shook, a single tremor of shame. My voice remained steady. "I'm not here for theatrics," I said. "I'm here for resolution." I gestured to the table between us. "My proposal is based on these facts: joint legal custody, primary physical custody with me, equitable division of assets, and structured visitation. I've drafted the settlement sheet accordingly." I slid the neatly typed agreement across to Emily. Her hand hovered, trembling, before she picked up the silver pen I'd placed beside the photo. Once, that pen had signed our mortgage, our daughter's birth certificate, now it bore witness to broken vows. She exhaled, steeled herself, and signed. I followed, placing my signature with quiet precision. Attorney Lou stamped the document. The soft thud echoed through the room like a gavel's knock. No raised voices, no tears, just the low click of pen on paper and the finality of my resolve. Emily looked up at me, eyes glistening. I offered her a nod, not in triumph, but in acknowledgement of what had been lost and what must now be rebuilt. In that silent exchange, the wedding photo and ashtray remained on the table, a mute testimony to both betrayal and the unwavering pursuit of justice. Outside, the city carried on, unaware. Inside, I felt the world settle. The first step toward reclaiming my life had been made. A week after the settlement, I opened the final court decree at our kitchen table, where that first anonymous photo had shattered my certainty. The judge's signature affirmed joint legal custody, granted me primary physical custody, and set a clear visitation schedule for Emily. Our home remained mine, with her share held in escrow. Retirement and savings accounts were split equitably. Temporary child and spousal support, deposited directly each month, would ensure our daughter's needs came first. I folded the decree and placed it beside our wedding photo, now restored, its frame gleaming quietly. Across from it, the silver ashtray from the café sat on the counter, its interior cleaned, ashes swept away. Both objects marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. That afternoon, I retreated to my garage workshop for the first time in months. The music box I'd started before betrayal waited for me on the bench, its mechanism half-assembled. I picked up chisels and sandpaper and began transforming it into a keepsake chest. Each shaving of pine felt like reclaiming my own narrative. I carved a simple inscription inside the lid, "Time reclaimed." Once finished, I lined the interior with felt and placed the silver pen, our wedding gift, in its center, repurposed as a token of durability rather than deceit. On Saturday evening, I hosted a backyard barbecue for a few close friends, David, Elena, and Tom, the allies who had seen me through every step. We grilled burgers and shared light-hearted tales under string lights. My daughter darted among us, her laughter the brightest melody. When she toddled over, brandishing a smooth river stone she'd found, I invited her to tuck it into the keepsake chest. She did so with care, then hugged me tight, as if sealing our bond. Sunday morning dawned golden. I launched my blog, Coffee and Clarity, with a post titled, Blueprints of Resilience. I outlined steps for preserving evidence, drafting custody proposals, and assembling a trusted network. I shared how the music box evolved into a chest of hope. Within hours, messages appeared. "Your calm map guided me. Thank you for showing that strength can be quiet. I'm rebuilding, thanks to your example." A virtual community began to form around shared determination rather than shared pain. That evening, I walked my daughter to her piano lesson, the keepsake chest tucked in my coat pocket. Across the room, I watched her small fingers press the keys, the first tentative notes blossoming into confidence. When she emerged, she ran to me, her smile undimmed by the past. I lifted her into my arms and whispered, "You make every moment worth reclaiming." Back home, I placed the chest on my nightstand beside the wedding photo and the final decree. Together, they stood sentinel over the room, promise, accountability, and renewal. As I turned off the lamp, I felt no lingering bitterness, only the steady pulse of hope restored. Betrayal had tried to steal my time. Instead, I had reclaimed it, one deliberate step at a time.